Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Talking Real Estate here, Champions Real Estate Team at Berkshire Hathaway Home Service Ambassador Real Estate Company. My name is Mark Wehner, the second team leader here. Every Wednesday we jump on, give you a rundown on what's going on in the real estate market over the Omaha metro area, and just kind of keep you guys in the loop, keep you informed, and all that good stuff. So I want to start out with a quick tip like we usually do. So we were talking earlier, Russ and I, just talking about timing. As far as our tip from from a buyer's perspective, seller's perspective, all that good stuff. Everyone, is it the right time to buy? I want to time the market. I want to hit the bottom of the market so that I can get the most appreciation and all that kind of stuff. So is it the right time, to buy a house? Is now the time, so those are all things, those are all common phrases that we hear across the board from buyers, sellers, investors, all that good stuff. So when it comes to the right time to buy, is now the right time to buy a house? Well, any time to buy a house is a good time to buy the house if you are ready personally. Your situations, your relationships, all that kind of fun stuff financially. Are you in a good financial place to purchase a house? With your initial investment, the monthly payments, job security, if you're at a commission, are you a 1099 job that you've had to have 2 years of tax returns, those type of things, making sure you get in there. And then also we talk about timing the market. The more thing I think is more important is time in the market is more important than timing the market. And what I mean by that is I'm sending out my quarterly CMA letters, basically going out to all my sphere, my friends, family, and past clients and stuff. I just literally stuffed all the envelopes today. So if you are not on that mailing list, give me a holler, shoot me your address. Happy to send you kind of just a market analysis. I do it every quarter, and I go back and I go, 5 years ago, what was the average sold price 5 years ago versus today? Well, today, April of 2025. I know it's May, but looking at the data last month, we were at $357,000 was the average sold price in the MLS. And 5 years ago it was 241. So that's a 48.1%, increase in the average sold price, which kind of equates down to equity, that you could have lost if you're like, hey, I want a time. I know that's 5 year time span, but do you buy a house now? Do you buy a house next year? And then it comes back to the other thing I said, is the timing right for you? And if it is, and you can purchase, then get in the market, get in there and start accruing some of that, hopefully appreciation. Now, ultimately, market goes up, market goes down. I got my license in 2008, 17 years ago, and we kind of bottomed out on the market in that about 2010, 2012 timeframe. We were down about, 10%. And that's probably the biggest drop I've seen, at least in my career. And Russ has been in it a little longer than I have. Maybe he's seen some bigger swings. But then we got through COVID and we were seeing 10, 15% appreciation in there. And historically, it's about a 2 to 3% appreciation. But over the life of the term, the long term, historically, when you look at things, we don't have a crystal ball, and all that good stuff. We can't predict the future, but just historically looking at the data, that's why I say like the time in the market is more important because that house today at 300, next year could be 310, could be 320, could be 315, and then what are the rates doing, and so when you look at that, it's just more that time in the market necessarily than trying to time the market. And more importantly, is the timing right for you? I mean, that basically what it boils down to. I'm happy to sit down with any of my clients. I'm working with clients now that we're talking about this. They're meeting with Russ on Friday. They've already had some dialogue going back and forth. And, I just talk, hey, hey, we may be approved for up here at X. Well, I tell it most importantly is now the right time for you? Are you comfortable with your payments? Are you comfortable with where you're at in your career? Is income wise, is your income going to go up over time? So if you're comfortable here, hopefully over the next couple of years, your income's going to, increase, hopefully, and all that good stuff. And so ways you can do that. So that's things that we talk about rather than, oh yeah, hey, I want to buy a house. Okay, great. Let's go sign, here, sign the buyer's agent, the agency agreement, and let's go look at houses. Well, that's great and all, and you're excited to go look at houses, but you may get in over your skis and one of those things. And that's why we want to make sure that you're comfortable where you're at from a buyer's perspective, and is now the right time to buy for you. And if not, then let's wait. The clients, my past hockey players that I met with, we met in January, I believe. I believe it was in January. And it's like, hey, here's our life situation. Here's where we're going. Here's where we want to be. Okay, great. And now we're at May and we're kind of getting the ball rolling, but they were able to get that cart started, back in January and get a game plan for them, and make sure that the timing is right for them. And it is now the right time, then great. And if not, let's push it back a little bit. Let's get it to where you're comfortable in that side of it. So, yeah. So, I mean, there's many things on timing as far as what's right for you, when to buy a house as far as people trying to, oh, I'm going to bottom the market. It's the same thing like, in the stock market, dollar cost average. If you're doing it over time, there's different things that you can look at as far as investing. And that's basically what real estate is. It's just a different investment vehicle. There's ways you can use it and utilize it, and it can really benefit you, and all the different benefits that come from owning real estate, either from a personal or from a real estate investment standpoint, which basically you're running a business. For all intents, people don't look at it that way. Oh, I got real estate. Well, yes, you're, a landlord, you're an owner, you own essentially a rental business, and so you have tax obligations, you have expenses, and the customer service for your residents that live in the house and all that good stuff. So anyways, that's probably a little longer-winded, quick tip than we normally give out. But like I said, I'm always happy to sit down with anybody, get a game plan for them as we walk through all this fun stuff. So looking at the housing market, so over the last 7 days, we had 661 new listings go live in the last 7 days, 429 new contracts written. This was done about 9 o'clock this morning. And we had just under 400 happy new homeowners in the last 7 days. So congratulations to them. So like I said, nothing too, shocking of what's going on in the market. I just had a mastermind meeting yesterday with a group of agents at Berkshire Hathaway, where we sit down every month, talk about what's going on in the market. And that's what we're seeing. The activity's picking up. We typically see this time of year, you got graduation parties, you got Memorial Weekend that's coming up. So you're starting to see a little more activity. You'll start seeing more in June, because some of those people that are looking from a school perspective, they want to get into school, right now. Not get into school, but get into a house so they can get situated before school starts in August. They want the kids in the neighborhood to meet the other kids in the neighborhood so that they have friends when they go to school. So we were talking about this yesterday. Grant in our mastermind was saying, when to sell a two-story. Two-stories typically sell before school starts, because those are typically families that are buying those houses. And, if you own a two-story and you're thinking about selling it, now is probably a prime time to get it on the market, so that someone can get in there before the July time frame. So like you said, they can get out and meet the kids in the neighborhood, maybe make some friends, so that, if they're new to the area, they at least have some familiar faces when they go into school the first day. So that type of stuff. So those are all things that like we think about as agents of when should we sell your house? When do you want to look for a house? When do you want to get into a house? There's more than just like we talked. There's pricing and timing, and there's a whole gamut of stuff that we all tie into everything as we move forward here. So yeah, so the market is what the market's going to do. So I mean, like I said, it's pretty active and all that good stuff. But I can go on a whole lot more in depth, but we'll keep it short and sweet here. So let's take a look. 30,000 foot view, the big picture. It's going to pull up here. There we go. Bouncing around. So we had 3,319 homes. 1,900 was just under that 2,000 mark of Douglas Sarpy County. We, are basically we're almost equal as far as existing homes, and then new construction houses. Months of inventory staying up at 2.3. So for those that aren't familiar with that, under 3 months of inventory is basically deemed a seller's market. Above 3 to 6 is like a neutral, healthy market. And then obviously above 6 is kind of the market. So putting this in perspective, like I said, in 2008, when I got my license, we just had an Omaha MLS. We did not include Lincoln up until 2017, 2018, when the two MLSs merged. And so at that time, we had 5,500, almost 6,000 homes on the market just in the Omaha MLS. That's not including the Lincoln MLS. And so you can see as our inventory is down just in both cities, and we have 1,900, basically houses in the Omaha metro area comparative to that 5,500, so almost gone through one cycle, of going from a buyer's to a seller neutral market in that side of it. So average sold price, this right now is at 345, in that standpoint of it. So yeah, that's kind of what we're seeing in the marketplace as far as the housing. So I guess we'll jump in here with Russ Williams at Williams Mortgage and see what's going on in the mortgage world on getting that house. So how are we doing, Russ?
Doing pretty well, Mark. Mortgage rates are up just a little bit from where they were last week. That's due to concern really kind of around the globe that inflation might be popping up a little bit. Just this morning, the UK, Great Britain, saw inflation come in a little bit hotter than they thought. They thought it would be flat. It came in at a positive number with prices rising. At the same time, there wasn't a lot of interest with investors in buying Japanese debt this morning. I guess I should say yesterday at this point with Japan. And so all those things are causing some weakness in the bond market, which is driving yields a little bit higher. We don't know what's going to happen longer term. Will we come to resolution and find peace with the tariffs? or between now and then will we see inflation pop up or other things happen. So having said that, yes, rates are up just a little bit from where they were last week. But just as you point out, it's better to be in the market than to try to time the market. So you're not committed to a rate long term. Once you lock that rate, if you decide to refinance it, if rates do come down, you've got the house purchase at today's prices versus what it would be 6 months, a year, or 2 years from now. So marry the house, date the rate, Mark.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So yeah, we're happy to help. If you have any questions, comments, like, subscribe, all on our social media. I know this video goes out simultaneously to our LinkedIn, our YouTube, Facebook, all that fun stuff. So if you have questions, comments, let us know. If there's topics you want us to cover, happy to do it. If you want to talk privately, via from a financing standpoint or even just from a real estate standpoint, give either one of us a holler. Russ at 290-8936, myself at 672-7670. Like I said, direct message or DM us or whatever all the fancy kids say these days. But yeah, just reach out to us. We're happy to help and get whether we meet in person, go out to lunch, whatever, jump on a Zoom call after the kiddos go to bed. That's when I got three kiddos. You see Camden on here a lot on the videos and stuff, but he's napping right now, so we got a little peace and quiet here for about a couple hours. So, anyways, yeah, have any questions? Give us a holler. Happy to help, and have a happy and safe Memorial weekend. And yeah, rock and roll. Enjoy summer. Take care, guys.